Hey guys, everything new under the sun. Here's an intelligence report from a Debka file. This is key because they're summing up what is going on in IDLIB and how this sets the stage for trouble with Israel. And I'll put the article in the link, but be prepared. Put your seatbelts on, like I said in the title of the last video. It appears that the United States is effectively making their excuse, drawing their red line, saying, you know, that we're going to go in now. We're going to do something. Well, it says Russian-Syrian success in the high-stakes IDLIB offensive would give Tehran a major victory and a renewed footing in Syria. This would torpedo the U.S.-Israeli campaign to drive the Iranians out. So this is about the threat, the long-term threat of Iran being in Syria. 1 second. All right. After a series of aerial bombardments, it says, can you hear me? Make sure my voice is on. Yes. The Russian-Syrian-Iranian offensive to gain control of Idlib, the last rebel stronghold in Syria, is ready to go, having meanwhile gained the valuable increment of Hezbollah fighters. After returning home from Syrian battlefields, these Lebanese Shiite fighters were given fresh orders over the weekend to return to Idlib. So the battleground is increasing in Syria. I think this is the distraction. This is where maybe the militaries of the world gather in Syria, ready for their march to Israel. And so this is what's happening there, a buildup. Last month, the U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton spent 4 days in Israel mapping out with Netanyahu and Israeli generals a joint military strategy for destroying the Iranian military in Syria. So the U.S. is looking for a reason to go in there and do something against Iran. Russia is now significantly active in the military sphere, and so the U.S. is now going up against Russia, effectively. It says, however, full Russian-Iranian partnership for the IDLIB operation injects a new factor into the equation. Its success would consolidate Iran's grip on the country with solid Russian support. The stakes, and remember the hooks in the jaw, Ezekiel 38, there's hooks in the jaw of Russia that draw them into the battle with the United States, and what is that? It's their alliance with Iran and Syria. U.S. forces in eastern Syria were placed on standby as a signal to Moscow that attacks on the Kurds would encounter U.S. military action. The U.S. Is facing off against Russia, basically. On September the 8th, that's Saturday, as tensions peaked, General Joseph Dunford, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, briefed Trump on his operational plan in Syria. In Israel, where the general public was not advised of this hazardous situation, while ushering the New Year festival, Rosh Hashanah, most people were not aware that a major conflagration was at hand in Syria, or that it could draw their armed forces into battle. So the IDF is standing at the ready for this one. Just one second here. Just blowing nose, but I don't want to do that on the audio. So pray for me. God is a healing God. All right. So Israel, so they're not telling the Israeli citizens, and the IDF is on high alert right now. As things stand, there is real likelihood of the U.S., UK, France, and Israel intervening when the Russian, Iranian, Syrian offensive goes forward in Idlib. So this is imminent. This is happening any time now. This is really breaking news. U.S. statements on the question have been clothed in threats to intervene if the Syrians again resort to chemical warfare. Moscow, and here's the kicker, threw this threat back, accusing the Americans of a false flag conspiracy for rebels to use chemical weapons and then accuse Syria. It goes on, the British handled this charge in a statement to Parliament. Theresa May named 2 Russian nationals as responsible in the service of Russian military intelligence for the attempted assassination by the nerve agent of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury. So that was the poisoning that occurred. The intention was to depict Moscow as the villains and any poison chemicals scenario. While the region is on tenterhooks for the IDLIB offensive to go forward, the scale, nature, and location of the U.S.-led Allied intervention cannot yet be determined, since it is likely to commensurate with the degree of Russian backing for the Iranian Hezbollah forces, which are in the vanguard of the IDLIB operation. So IDLIB appears to be really the flashpoint, causing all the militaries to come together, to come to a head. And of course, we know in Ezekiel 38 that the U.S. is not around. So what happens to the U.S.? Well, now we have an economic leader. I did a video yesterday on the Greg Hunter show that has concerns about, his sources have concerns about an EMP threat to the United States. And wouldn't that kick ahead a Bible prophecy, knocking the United States out of world power status, giving strength to Russia in the Middle East? We are lined up here for some potentially imminent, critical end-time Bible prophecy events to be occurring. It says, if Russia backing goes all the way, Israel and the IDF will find a huge effort they have invested in recent months to cut down Iran's military foothold in Syria is nullified. Iran will be riding back in triumph under Russian military protection. This is the hooks in the jaw that draws Russia in there. Their allied agreement with Iran draws them back to fight against the IDF. On Sunday, September 9th, yesterday, the IDF, with unusual candor, confirmed that in its Operation House of Cards of May 10th, Israeli fighter squadrons wiped out 50 Iranian bases. Incredibly, they wiped out 50 Iranian bases, command centers, and weapons depots across Syria. This mission was intended to warn Moscow and Tehran that even if Iran built its House of Cards in Syria, they were still in the IDF's sights. So that's a warning to Russia, effectively, that once all this is done, once IDLIB is done, the IDF will go in there and wipe out Iran again. This is going to be the cause for the hooks in the jaw to draw Russia in when Iran says, look, IDF's attacking us, Russia, come support us now because you're our allies. And so that turns Russian fighter jets and forces down around to point at Israel. Guys, I can't say it enough. We are very, very close to some of the big events happening in Bible prophecy. It appears so. The battle lines are drawn. The red lines, the lines in the sand are drawn. Chemical attack appears to be the red line that the U.S. is going to use to get in there. And then we know that the U.S. is taken out of world superpower status somehow. And that could be by an EMP blast. Somehow they're taken out. Or economic collapse. Or maybe the EMP blast causes economic collapse around the world, and that takes out the U.S. as a world superpower. Guys, Bible prophecy is being fulfilled as we speak now. Make sure you know Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, because He's coming back soon. Please share the video, subscribe if you haven't, give me the likes and thumbs up and all that good stuff. And please support the channel. And make sure you know Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, because times are heating up. We are walking straight into end time Bible prophecy.